Hello and welcome to this pre-Christmas live. I am glad to be here with you. It is the week of Christmas for those that celebrate, and it is the second night of Hanukkah for those that celebrate. And so I'm happy to be here with you. I have a very sensitive skin. The A was useless. I have very sensitive skin, and I just cut up a bunch of squash. And so my hands are bothering me. So squash, winter squash has a type of resiny stuff in it, and it just sticks to your skin. And it's not actually an allergy. I used to think I was allergic to it, but it's like a sap that some people are just sensitive to. And it makes my skin feel like a burn, but without the pain. You know, when you burn your hand and your skin feels kind of numb, but also sort of tight. It feels like that, so my brain is like pain, but there's no pain. It's just a weird feeling. I am a bit of a princess. So that's what's happening. And every time I think I should put gloves on. Next time I'm going to put gloves on. And then I'm always like midway through cutting the squash when I'm like, oh, whoops. There are gloves in the kitchen for such purposes. And yet I did not open that cabinet and put them on. If these are the kinds of problems I'm dealing with, I'm doing pretty well, I guess, right? These are not real problems. These are small things. Anyway, now let's talk about anything small or big or real or not real. What's going on, people? Who wants to talk to me? I had an interview today. It's not up yet, but I did the interview with Amy Berger, one of my really good friends. We are super happy to talk to each other. And we were talking about maintenance. So I'm doing a series on maintenance with coaches who are also people that have lost weight and kept it off. So I'm doing a maintenance series. And so I've recorded 2 so far. You can see my hand is actually these 2 fingers are a little bit orange from the squash. I've washed them like 20,000 times. It's just sticky. And I've got 3 more interviews set up, maybe more, but that's what's going on. Now I've got to figure out if to put them out in like one show, multiple shows, a series. I did the interviews. Now I have to figure out how to make them enjoyable for you guys to watch. Anywho, if you have questions, I would love to hear about it. I just got this in the mail, a little wireless charger thing. I just noticed it. Nothing really to say about it. I hope it works. It's a little, you like put your phone on a pad. Hopefully it works. Anyway, just came in the mail. So right now I am so my mom and dad have had the C word the last week. So not the last week, like basically since Thanksgiving has been a bit of a family saga of illness. Everybody's fine. But the whole holiday season got really wonky. So we're doing Christmas dinner with the fam, like the extended fam, with my brother and all his kids and the in-laws and the yada, 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 at my mom's house tomorrow night. We were going to do it on last Saturday, kind of as children have become adults in our 40s. I'm the youngest, so we're the grandkids are almost adults, not all of them. So, and so we stopped having sort of like on the day holiday a couple of years ago with the big fam. So we're going to do it on Saturday, but then my mom was still a little iffy. So we moved it to Wednesday. So tomorrow is like my family party Christmas thing. And so I'm bringing kombucha squash puree. So that's why I was doing a lot of squash. So I've so far roasted all of the squash. And after the call tonight, I'm going to puree all of the squash. So pretty simple. If I'd remembered to put gloves on, it would have been better. But life is fine. It's a small thing. Anyway, so that's what I've been up to. And I've been perfecting my high protein pumpkin bread that I made last week. Every time I make it, I've made it a lot of times, it's a little different. And so I'm trying to figure out, so I don't want to give you guys a recipe that like it just sort of different each time. I'm like, that's not right. So trying to figure out what's going on there so that I can get it out. Anyway, so let's go. Enough about me. Let's go to the questions. Hey, Terry, still in maintenance mode, tracking, learning to enjoy life. That is awesome. Melinda, thanks for the feedback. Multiple shows. Got it. Melinda said, still stalled almost a year. Should women count macros and calories? I'm in my mid 60s, need to lose 20 more, lost 40, scared to reverse and gain again. I can't think to do that. Okay, so the first thing I would say is if you're not already tracking macros, I wouldn't do a reverse because you have to know that you are under eating to know that you probably need a reverse. And if you don't know what you're consuming, don't jump into a reverse. Track. And does everyone need to track and count calories? Nope. Do people who are stalled and not seeing success probably need to track and count calories? Yeah. Now, if you're like, I hate it, I hate tracking, I can't stand it, then there might be other things to do. But the easiest, simplest to me, we all have different perspectives, but the simplest, least complicated, most helpful thing to do at that point is to track. So, you say you do track. So, should women count macros and calories? I would say not necessarily. But should people who are stalled and not understanding why they're not seeing the weight loss they want track? Probably would be my answer. So then what you're going to want to do is get make sure you're really accurate calculation for like 2 weeks. 1 week is fine. 2 weeks is better, right? And then look at that. So look at your outcome. What's your weight doing compared to your food intake? And you want to look at, if you need to, what's the next right step? Are you eating too much, too little? If you're stalled, the answer is usually you're eating more at this time. So in the current metabolic state your body is in, you're eating more than that metabolic state will allow to lose weight. Does that mean necessarily you have to eat less to lose weight? Not necessarily. There are some other things we could do. It could be increasing activity if you have a thyroid problem, right? So there are different things to move, but a lot of people in this scenario would say, oh, I'm eating around 2,200 calories a day. And that is probably too much for my current activity level. And then the first thing I always fix is protein. Get your protein right first, because that's just a requirement for healthy living. Get the protein right, and then adjust the fat and carbs so that you're in a range where your weight loss is more likely. And then do that for a week or two and see what your results were like. And then you're just kind of guessing and checking and adjusting from there. Dadjur, sorry, I probably butchered that name. Dadjur said, hello, doing carnivore from August, was vegan. All right, wow, you like the extremes. My A1C went from 4.3 to 5.0, cholesterol 199 to 406, triglycerides from 43 to 62. Is it okay? Well, I mean, so obviously your total cholesterol went up quite a bit. It's not entirely unusual when you make a change to carnivore that you see much higher, much higher total cholesterol. In terms of your A1C, 4.3 and 5.0 are perfectly healthy A1Cs. So, I don't think that there's an issue there. How do you feel? Do you feel good? Are you functioning well? Are your other health markers improving? Those are questions I would look at. Terry said, I've been experimenting with rutabaga and made an au gratin. Well, that sounds very tasty. And used it as noodles in a lasagna. If you can find kohlrabi, that is also a fun one to experiment with. Donna, happy Hanukkah to you as well. Okay. So Karen said, what can a person take for low blood sugar? Great question. So let's talk about low blood sugar. When does low blood sugar happen is a question that we should look at, right? Because I think when people are on high carbohydrate diets, they often mistake the difference. So we often feel like we might have low blood sugar when we're used to high blood sugar. So when you're used to high blood sugar, low blood sugar can feel like a problem, whereas it's probably not a problem, right? Like if you're used to blood sugar of 200 and you hit 70, you're going to feel like terrible. And that differential is what's the problem. Whereas if a person is used to blood sugars in the 70s and 80s, they're not going to feel that at all. They're going to feel totally normal. So it's not an absolute issue. Now, the other thing I often see is people saying they think they have low blood sugar when what they have maybe is low energy or low electrolytes. So, but if you're talking about confirmed cases of low blood sugar, which in general, I would think the people that are experiencing that are going to be type 1 diabetics, right? People who don't have an inner regulatory system that can work for them about blood sugar levels. So type 1 diabetics might get into that scenario where they took a little bit too much insulin. And so now they need to do something that brings up the blood sugar because they have something that's artificially lowering the blood sugar and they need to fight against that. And so in that kind of a scenario, by the way, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I am not advising type 1s on what to do. They probably know this blood sugar management. And if they don't, they should work with somebody who's qualified to teach them. I'm teaching kind of a general topic. So those of you that aren't directly affected by this understand the concepts. So I just want to say that, like, please don't take anything I say as like the gospel medical advice. All right. But I'm explaining the scenario. So in that instance, though, where a type 1 diabetic who takes exogenous insulin, exogenous means from outside the body. So they've injected some insulin, but they've injected maybe a little bit too little. So that's going to drive their blood sugar too low. So they want to take a little something that's going to combat that, that's going to bring their blood sugar up. Then that is something that I think you might be talking about. Very long-winded way to say anything. That's my job. And for them, it's, I think that glucose tabs, so they sell little tablets that are glucose. I think that's what's often recommended. I think it can be helpful from what I've seen. Some great people to look at in terms of this is Let Me Be 83, which is a mom with a great kid, River, who's a type 1 diabetic. There's some other type 1 grit. So there are some great resources out there for type 1s who need help with blood sugar management. But what I've heard that population say is when they have to adjust blood sugar up, which, shouldn't be that frequent because they're not dosing a ton of insulin because they're not eating a very high carbohydrate diet, yada, yada, yada. But if there's ever a low and they need to correct for that, it's kind of like you're doing glucose as medication. So there's some little tabs that you can take and they will work quickly. But basically correcting for low blood sugar is going to be part of your overall treatment plan. That's the word I'm looking for, right? So knowing you're going in with a medical issue, you're going to have a plan. Okay, what if this happens? What if that happens? What's the rescue, right? Like I have asthma, not anymore, but I used to have asthma. So if I was going somewhere, I always made sure that I had my inhaler with me, right? I think that's going to be similar. If you're a diabetic, you're going to make sure you have the supplies you need. If you go high, if you go low, what if my continuous glucose monitor breaks? Am I going to have the supplies I need? I think that answered your question. If you had a different question, please ask again. But for people that are not type 1 diabetic or not insulin dependent, like are not injecting insulin, generally speaking, if they've been keto for a while, don't see a lot of low blood sugar. And if I do, it's just maybe they've been fasting too long and they need to eat. And it doesn't take any significant intervention. But what I often see is early in the keto journey, somebody thinking they're having a low blood sugar incident when it's really actually probably an electrolyte incident, because both will impact your central nervous system and send you a little bit into fight or flight and make your body feel similarly. Like, so sometimes in a low, so like you need some salt can actually feel like you have low blood sugar. But if you have confirmed low blood sugar, then I would say you need to figure out why your blood sugar went low. Because if you're eating an appropriate diet, you should not be having low blood sugar unless you have a health problem. So just kind of a full circle. Terry, thank you so much for the super thanks. Thank you for all you do. Listen to her wise, no nonsense advice. Aw, so good, Terry. I am grateful for you as well. Okay, we've got happy holidays, Mesa, Arizona. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, peace of the season for all. We got some celebration here of the holiday season. What are you guys doing for Christmas? So I didn't finish the menu for tomorrow. So we're making a pork loin roast. So that's the one that has a little fat on it rather than a pork tenderloin. There was a discussion around this. I was like, we need to get the one with a little fat on it or else it's dry, and I don't want it to be dry. So they're doing that. So we got the pork, and then my mom is doing like a glazed onion thing. It'll be a little sugary, but I just won't have very much. Sort of a chutney for it. And then I'm making Brussels sprouts and this squash. So we're going to have a nice little kind of fall winter plate. My parents don't really like turkey. I always do a turkey at my house. They're not super into it. So, but my boyfriend grew up in Panama. And so we decided instead of doing stuffing, we always do stuffing. We're like, let's do something different. So we're going to do arroz con todo, which is rice with everything. It's what he grew up eating all the time. It's not actually even like a party dish, but he was like, we should have that again. So we're going to do a turkey and some arroz con todo. And put all the stuff in it. And it's going to be an interesting combination. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the rest of our meal, but why not? And so we'll do that for Sunday. And yeah, that's my plan. What are you guys going to be eating for your holiday meals if you're going to be eating holiday meals this week? I'd love to hear what you have planned for your parties, for your events. Are you dealing with any struggles around what to eat or cook? I'm here for it. We have our holiday table. Some of you have received this in the mail. If you think you should have received it in the mail by now and it isn't there, just send me an email, kim@theketonis.com, and I can track it down for you. If you don't have time to get it, if you haven't ordered it yet, but it is available in digital, so you can get it instantaneously if you'd like. I will make sure you have the link. All my cookbooks can be found at kimhowerton.com/books. And then you could find it there if you wanted to look now. But it's here. So like some fun stuff is in here that you could use all year round. This is just shrimp with tartar sauce and cocktail sauce. Pretty easy dinner any night, really. And Nisha's party mix is in here. We got chicken liver mousse. We've got the bacon jam and baked brie. You know those? We have a bunch of little cracker recipes. I put in now most of the recipes in here are really simple. This one's a little more complicated. But you know those things? I can't do it. There we go. Those little crackers. I think they're called Rain Crisps or something like that. Rain something. Anyway, I always think they're called Rainforest Crisps. They're not. Rain Coast. That's what they're called. Rain Coast Crisps. And I always think they're called Rainforest Crisps. So when I made a duplicate of them, which I did here, I called them Rainforest Crisps. So this one is a little more involved because you have to essentially twice bake things. But it's kind of a fun project, but there are some crackers that are super simple. Anyway, and then there's things like squash puree, gravy, cranberry, brisket, pancakes, all sorts of stuff. So anyway, and then I always like that picture. You know when you get a good picture? This picture has a funny story, which is, see how the top of the pie is red and the inside of the pie is pink? Well, I was making this cranberry pie and I was like, oh, it's going to be this pretty cranberry color. And then I added the cream to it because it's like cranberry cream pie. And I was like, my pie is Pepto Bismol colored. I don't know that anybody wants a Pepto Bismol colored pie. So I made like a cranberry gel to sit on top of it. So it would be a prettier color. Anyway, so now it's got layers of different colors. Anyway, so if you haven't gotten the book yet, kimhowerton.com/books and then find our holiday table. You can get the digital. You don't have time. I mean, you can get the physical one if you want to. But if you get the physical one, there is an option to upgrade for $3 to also get the digital. So you could have the physical for next year or for any holiday and get the digital. So there you go. Hey Tara, haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're good and your cute daughter. And your husband. We don't talk about your husband much. Terry said, sisters and their adult kids coming for 6 days. Some meals I'm eating with them, some I'm bringing my own. They know I'm focused on my health and don't mind. Good job. Nice boundaries, Terry. Serena said, keto lasagna and meatloaf. No parties. I'm a homebody. I work Christmas Eve and Christmas. I'll be making it and freezing. All right. Sounds good planning. Good planning, Serena. My daughter and 10-month-old granddaughter will be here. Oh, that's super fun. All right. Kate in Salt Lake. I have no idea what will be on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning when I will be with family. I just do the meat and some veg. Perfect. Amy says, my family gave up on dinner since everyone just snacks. So now we just do a potluck, which is great because I can bring deviled eggs, salami, cream cheese roll up, antipasta. Fabulous. Fabulous. That sounds really good. Yeah, little snackums or a snackum meal is always a fun thing to do because there are so many good. I mean, one of the things I actually went to buy a URL. Coincidentally, keto was what because I was like, there are so many. It was taken, by the way. I was going to do a recipe book. There are so many. I'll still do the recipe book. The name is not. There's so many recipes that are keto, but you would never know because they just happen to be keto, like deviled eggs, right? So many good things to eat can be low carb without any like weird substitution frankenfood. It's just like there's just a long list of really great food that fits in a keto lifestyle. So, I think that's the way to go, right? Yeah, so that's the plan. So, what else is going on? So the new year is coming up after Christmas. That's usually how it goes. And so for those of you that have been wondering, Keto Unstuck, my program for people that aren't seeing the success that they want on keto, is starting up again mid-January. So I'll start announcing more about it after Christmas, but we're going to start up on January 15th and we're going to have 2 tracks because I think there are a lot of people that are like, I just need get back to basics, like get back on track, make things simple, like make things idiot proof. Not that any of you are idiots, but some of our lives are complicated and we need something easy. So we're going to have the back to basics group in it. And we'll also have people that need more help, like more one-on-one, more tinkering, more, I don't know what's wrong, more complex because they come in all sizes. And some versions of keto problems are a little complex and some are a little simpler. So we will address all the issues that come up when people are not seeing the success they want long-term on keto. All things keto with Kelsey. I guess I should have just called you Kelsey. Kelsey or Kelsey? Kelsey, probably. I made the cake 3 times today because every time it came out just a little different and I can't figure out what's happening. But I'm going to put the recipe up. They're all good. It's just like sometimes it's wetter than other times and I can't quite put my finger on what the difference is. And so that's weird to me, but I am going to put the recipe up within the next day. But I'll tell you now. So it's eggs, pumpkin spice, sweetener, yogurt, Greek yogurt, some more egg whites, pumpkin flavored protein powder, although you could use vanilla, a little bit of coconut flour, and a little bit of psyllium husk, and then some cranberries, and then nuts if you want to add nuts. That's what's in there. And so I will try and get that up within the next 24 hours so that people can make the little protein cake. So the difference that I'm experiencing is sometimes the cake is drier, sometimes it's kind of wetter. It's edible and tasty in all cases, but I'm a little bit confused about the change in the texture. But such is life. I'm wondering if my coconut flour might be a little old, and maybe that, but I'm like, why is that causing an inconsistency? It's frustrating to me that I'm not quite sure what's happening. But in no case that I have made it has it been bad. It's frustrating to me that I can't figure out what the difference is. I don't have a good name for it yet, Steph. It's basically a high protein cranberry. I said something about a breakfast cake because it's like basically high protein cake that the kind of thing you'd want with like a cup of coffee in the morning for breakfast. If you're wanting a pastry style breakfast, it's like a muffin, it's like kind of like a cranberry pumpkin muffin, but in a cake form. So it's a big piece of cake. Hold on. I have a picture I took. See, and then I served it. I served it with, like, in that bowl back there, you can see, it's really good with a frosting recipe that I made for it as well. So, but I think it's better, unless you're serving people right away, I prefer to frost the slice like when I serve it, or else the other slices get soggy, right? If I frost the whole cake at once, then it gets a little soggy. So that's why I have a little bowl of frosting in that picture. But I don't know, what should I call it? It's got cranberries, it's got pumpkin. It's like coffee cake, yeah. Cranberry pumpkin protein coffee cake. I don't have a good name for this cake yet. And then the frosting is high protein as well. It's some cream cheese, yogurt, Greek yogurt, and cottage cheese blended together. And you can do just that, and it tastes very much like cream cheese frosting. Or you could also fold in some more protein powder, which sweetens it and makes it a little, but then it's still very tasty there. Obviously, this recipe relies upon the fact that you have a protein powder that you like the taste of, because it's got a lot of protein powder in it. I always use a PE Science or Keto Chow because they're milk protein isolates, which means that they have both both types of dairy protein, whey and casein. You want some casein in a protein powder that you're baking with, because whey protein is very dry and casein absorbs moisture better. And so if you're going to be baking, generally speaking, you're not going to be very happy with just a whey. You want a whey plus casein, which Keto Chow is, which is why it's so great for baking. PE Science is another brand that makes a blend like that. Nancy says, with coconut flour, I find how long the batter sits can affect the dryness. Yeah, that's definitely true. And like the bag just got used up. So what I'll do is I'll put the recipe up on my website, and if I make it again and it comes out different, I'll change the recipe. Like I said, it's come out good each time. It's just sometimes I'm like, well, now it's wetter, now it's drier. What is happening? Just being honest about that situation. I like to make sure things are like reproducible before I send them out to you guys, but sometimes you guys want it, and I'm like, well, if you're willing to experiment with me, I will give you the recipe. So that's what's up with that. But yeah, Harvest is good. Harvest coffee cake. I was thinking about trying next, but I'm still stuck. Pumpkin cranberry cake with frosting. Steph, I like it. This frosting, by the way, So this base recipe of it's basically equal parts. You can adjust to suit your taste. Cream cheese, cottage cheese, good culture cottage cheese, the best tasting cottage cheese, and Greek yogurt or skyr blended together until it's smooth is a fabulous thing to keep in the fridge. You can do tons of things with that. I use it as a spread, and it has a third the calories and like 50% more protein of cream cheese, but it tastes like cream cheese. It's a little bit thinner, but I don't mind that. And so I like a lot of cream cheese on things. So if I like make some protein bread and I want like cream cheese and a tomato on it, like to pretend that it's a bagel, I get a lot of this stuff. So anyway, this spread that I've been making the past couple weeks is fabulous. And then adding the protein powder is you can just eat it with a spoon. It's just a nice high protein little spoon eating frosting situation. Anyway, it's the simple things, but I think like I worked out and now the macros may have shifted slightly since I've made a few alterations, but like a slice of this cake, let me see if I can find it, with some frosting is around 23 grams. And that's a little lower. It's like the cake itself is like 20. No, the cake itself, like a good solid piece of cake is like 17 grams of protein. When you add the frosting, you got like 20-ish, which is not a whole meal, but it's pretty close in terms of the protein amount. So let's say we're having breakfast and you're doing like 2 eggs and maybe a slice or 2 of bacon and you wanted a little coffee cake with it. You're good on protein then. Like it can be really helpful. Or if you're having you don't really want a meal, you want a kind of a desserty meal for your midday meal or your last meal, a little protein powder in your coffee and or decaf if it's in the afternoon. And a piece of cake and you're good to go. I mean, so I'm just trying to solve protein problems for people with that cake. But obviously, if you don't like protein powder, this cake is probably not for you. Anyway, but that's what's coming up. It's true. I've been using protein powder a lot in my baking. I've been finding it really enjoyable to come up with different recipes. And it keeps the carbs down and the protein up. So it seems like a win to me. All right. What else do you guys want to talk about before we close tonight? Got my little sippy cup again. Sippy cup, very important for personal happiness. That might be it. I don't know. I've been feeling like a little brain dead this week. How about you guys? I don't even know what's happening, but it's good. Everybody needs a little bit of a week off, a little bit of a mental break. I've made a similar recipe in a loaf pan, but this one I've been making in a a square pan because it cooks a little more evenly then. So Terry said, "What are some veggies I like to use?" Well, these days I use a lot of veggies. So I went from a almost carnivore period, seriously under 20 grams of total carbs, to now I'm much higher carb in terms of veggie intake in the past 2 years. And my body just seems happier with more veg, more protein, and a little less fat. So still very much low carb. And so I eat a lot of veg. I eat onions, I eat cucumbers, I eat tomatoes, I eat peppers, I eat broccoli, I eat cauliflower, so like there are very few vegetables I don't eat. So kind of depends, Terry, what you're looking for. So what veggies have I been enjoying recently? Well, winter squash, which is definitely higher carb, but nowhere near as high a carb as, super like a potato or something. So like I make this kabocha squash. It's got maybe like for a half a cup, 8 or 9 grams of carbs, whereas that amount of sweet potato would have triple that. So it's definitely lower carb. But some winter squash is very nice. I also really enjoy, I've been super into this salad I've been making. which is I finely slice romaine lettuce, slice Persian cucumbers. I like Persian cucumbers the best. They're the little ones. Um, if I have a little red pepper, I might slice that in. So I'm doing all this kind of a fine slice. And then I throw in some pickled red onion or I might top it with that. I toss it with some, lemon juice and olive oil and salt and a little yogurt. So it makes like a creamy dressing. And I throw diced dill in to the mix. So it's got like a nice dill. I love dill. Got a dill flavor. And then I top that salad with pickled onions. It's delicious. Like thinly sliced. It adds like a nice burst of flavor. So that salad I've been making a lot. I've been doing like just rice. I had like stopped eating much riced cauliflower and suddenly I'm really into it again. So, I've been doing that. So I just go through different phases. Let us see. Please, Amy, ask away. Please, please, please. I hesitate to ask since I don't want to be a downer, but what are my recommendations for getting through stress to still being low carb without binging out on sugar and bread? This is what we're here for. Amy, don't feel bad about asking. So stress, totally get it. Totally, totally get it. So here's the first thing I would say in a stressful time when you feel at risk of binging. One of the most important protective strategies I know of is to make sure you're not under eating. So maybe that means eating 3 meals a day if you've been eating 2, like making sure you're eating preemptively in terms of before the day gets away from you. So have a really solid breakfast. If you end up not that hungry during the day, just have a light dinner instead of a heavier dinner. But it actually helps with stress levels and better sleep to put more of your food in the first half of the day than the second half of your day. So a lighter dinner, you can still have dinner, just a lighter dinner and a heavier breakfast. Or if you don't like a heavy breakfast, then have the bigger meal at lunch. Don't have most of your calories at the end of the day. That can help with cortisol levels, which helps make you feel less stressed out. Meditation. So giving yourself time, like 5 minutes every couple of hours to just sit with your eyes closed, just focus on your breathing. You don't have to do anything fancy, crazy. Just in, out, in, out. Just focused on your breathing for 5 minutes, and if a thought comes into your mind that wants you to focus on it, to worry about it, just go back to focusing on your breathing. It's fine if the thought comes through, just let it go. Just let it go. Don't focus on it. Let it go. And just come back to your breathing. So some meditation, it can also lower cortisol, lower your stress response. So doing some meditation, making sure you're eating plenty, making sure you're having the kinds of foods that you want to be eating. So bacon, steak, cheese, whatever those things are. Don't undereat. Don't binge, but don't undereat, right? And so preemptively fuel yourself so that you're not going into stressful situations a little bit hungry can be very beneficial. So those are just some baseline things. And then wherever you can, lighten your load. If someone can do something for you, let them do it. Even if it's not the way you would do it, let them do it, right? So take it off your plate. If there's going to be a party or a family engagement where you're going to be stressed out about being there, and I would find a way that you have a reason you have to leave at a certain time. So you don't get like stuck there, right? Like go in knowing you have an exit plan. There are obviously stresses we can't get away from. Sometimes it's our immediate family. Sometimes it's us. And you have to deal with that. But again, focusing on the breathing, making sure you're nourished. Don't try to lose weight right now. Just try and maintain, and just focus on taking as much off your plate that doesn't need to be on there. If anything is optional, it's a no. So give yourself those spaces. Kelsey said, "Oh, I bought kombucha squash for Christmas. Do I just eat it with butter?" So there are 2 different ways that I do kombucha squash, which I love. Which is the first way is roasted. Oh, by the way, if they're kind of hard to cut, so if you microwave them for like a minute to a minute and a half, the skin softens up a little bit. And if it's still too hard, microwave it for a little longer. You're not trying to cook it there, but it softens the skin a little bit so that you can cut it easier. Don't slice your fingers off. You need like a solid knife on this situation. And so you can either just slice it open and then scrape the seeds and gunk out. Hold on. My computer is going to run out of power. And then you take those slices and then you slice it into, little pieces. Toss the slices with some olive oil and salt and pepper and whatever spices you want to use. And then you can either bake it in the oven or you can air fry it and cook it. I don't know how long to cook it, like half an hour, and then check on it. The skin is edible. So roasting with the skin on, totally fine. It's a little firmer, right? It's a little different texture, but it kind of gets nice and crispy. The second way is to do the first part. You're going to cut it in half, scrape out the inside. Then I put it cut side down in the oven at 400 for about an hour. I always put a little bit of water in the pan, not a lot, like a half inch of water, so that it kind of steams as it cooks. And then take it out, let it cool because it's hot. Don't burn yourself. And then I just scoop the inside out, which is very soft at that point, and put it in a food processor with a little bit of butter and some salt, and just puree it. It's pretty pure. It's pretty soft just coming out of the oven, but it's like a little bit fibrous. I like it a little smoother. So I put it in the food processor. And that's it. And then I put that in the fridge, and it's fabulous to store. Then I warm it up when I'm going to eat it. It's a nice make ahead. Heather says, does LDL cholesterol change day by day depending on what you eat? LDL cholesterol is indeed somewhat changeable. Yeah. So there will be trends for sure. But yes, you can impact your LDL at least to some degree by changing your diet very short term. So yeah, absolutely. Oh, the other thing, Kelsey, is some people will like sprinkle on the roasted one. They might sprinkle like a little bit of brown sugar swerve on it, so that it kind of gets a little bit of a glaze on it. Some people like that as well. So there are. Jill says we cook it in a cake dish with a little water cut side up with a tap of butter in it. So lots of ways to cook it. Basically, it's like a pumpkin, but a little sweeter. It is a Japanese pumpkin. So it's a little sweeter tasting, but all the things you might do with a pumpkin, you can do with that. But I love with the kombucha that the skin is indeed edible. Not everyone loves the texture or the taste or whatever, but it is edible. It has some good quality, soluble fiber in which is great for your gut. So if you do well with those kinds of things, it is certainly one of my very favorite winter indulgences. The other day, I thought I could put some of that frosting on it and it would be dessert. A little sweet potato frosting situation. Get weird ideas sometimes. Just got to go with it. Anyway. All right. Last question before we wrap it up. I'm going to go and deal with squash. So I'm glad to be here with you, everybody. I hope that you have a fabulous few days. I will be around on Facebook and YouTube comments. If you have a question you want me to answer, just comment on one of my videos or posts, and I'll be happy to jump in and answer it. So thank you guys for spending today with me. And if you want either the cookbook or the Common Sense Labs book with Ken Berry, by the way, the cookbook is with Nisha Berry. I'm just a third wheel in this relationship. So Nisha and I did the cookbook, and Ken and I did the Common Sense Lab book. And it's a good thing we get along. And so whichever book you want, you can find these at kimhowerton.com/books. That's where all the books are. And Roxanne says, hit the like button. Yes, please. I would appreciate that. Please do hit the like button. Please follow. Please like. Please all the things that will make the Facebook and YouTube gods like me. All right. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful holiday.